doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until
I
it
am
cracks
Illyria.
apart. Time doesn't exist until
I am Illyria.
you were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until
I am Illyria.
you were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
I am Illyria.
You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of It's Time to Rewind, the podcast trapped in its own time loop right along with the movies we discuss. This season is the serial bomb, yo, and we're looking at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and we have moved on to Angel Season 5, Episode 19, Time Bomb. Today we're discussing the third loop in the episode, starting at 18 minutes and 9 seconds, with Illyria teleporting back to the conversation between Spike and Angel after their sparring match, and ends at 18 minutes and 28 seconds, with Illyria grasping her stomach, about to shift through time again. Joining me once again is Rob Branch, my co-host at Lyrical Innuendo. How are you doing today?
What's going on, Bubba? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome.
So jumping right into this clip, and this is another short clip. You know, it's just like about 15 or just under 20 seconds here.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where we really get a sense that she's not just leaping forward through time, she's also leaping backward through time, because this is exactly the same moment as a scene from earlier in the episode where she jumps back in with Spike and Angel, and we get our commercial break, our blackout for commercial break right in the middle of this scene.
I actually thought that was part of the scene. It's like, okay, everything faded to black, couple seconds, and everything fades back. And I'm like, wait a minute. They had these things called commercials back in the day. God.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I just resubscribed to Netflix, and I went with the cheaper Netflix with ads version. And it's weird because watching a Netflix show that's designed to be watched without ads, but now they have the ad breaks in there. So they don't always choose a good spot for a commercial break because they don't have the commercial break spots built into the episodes. So it's like you're watching in like a Netflix episode. Like I jumped back into The Ranch just because
I love that show.
Yeah, it's an easy watch, and I was just looking for something that I didn't have to pay a whole lot of attention to, and I've seen the whole series before. I like that show too, but it's just like it's very jarring whenever they jump to commercial. It feels like it's almost like right in the middle of a scene.
Yeah, well, I mean, back in the day, we're both of the same age when, this unusual commodity called commercials existed. When we would watch a show and a commercial popped up, we're like, okay, piss break, or okay, got to go get something to eat, not just pause the show and go take care of your business. Commercials.
And then like if you're watching it with other people, like if you're watching it with your friends, and then you go in the other room, and then the worst thing you hear is like, it's back on, get back in here.
Yeah, hurry up, dude, get the fuck back. Like, and then you're running, and you're jumping over shit, you're tripping, and you're pissing people off, but you're like, okay, what'd I miss?
Yeah, I felt like, I am somebody that I watched a lot of TV. Like I had the schedule memorized, like not, I mean, pretty much the entire TV schedule, but I had like our viewing schedule memorized. Like, okay, Thursday at 7 o'clock we watch this show on this station. 7:30 we switch over to this station. At 8 o'clock we switch back to this station for this show.
Right.
And
you had everything figured out. Like, we're doing this.
And I also had a very good sense of, like, if I'm not like running to the other room, that I'll be watching, and I'll be like, that the last commercial fades to black, and I'm like, okay, now the show's coming back on, and then the show comes back on, because I would have that sense, like, I watched enough TV. I had this, I have a good internal clock, so it's like I knew how long commercial breaks typically were. So it's like I had a sense of when the show was going to come back on.
Agreed. Yeah. We built our internal clocks around, Angel and Buffy and time breaks.
Yeah, it's funny. I hadn't like kind of put that together because I haven't talked about my own like internal clock on this show at all, but I'm the type of person that I will wake up like 2 minutes before my alarm goes off. Like I'll
Oh
wake
shit,
up
I'm
and look at my
jealous.
clock and then I'll see, oh, I have 2 minutes before the alarm goes off.
I'll wake up a half an hour before my alarm gets off.
And that or well,
Yeah.
like whenever I'm cooking something, like something that takes a long time, like 30 or 40 minutes or like 20 minutes for like something in the oven, I'll have a moment where it's like, oh, I wonder how much time is left. And then I'll walk into the kitchen. And then as I'm walking into the kitchen, the timer will go off and the food's done.
It's pretty impressive talent there.
Yeah, it's like one of the worst superpowers ever.
Being on time.
Yeah.
It's Captain On Time. I'm here on time.
So yeah, we get this clip and the first section of it with Angel and Spike talking is like literally the exact same clip that we saw in the first part of the episode, like right after Illyria had her sparring match with Spike.
Right.
She kind of, it looked like she just appeared, like they didn't show her. So the first time watching it, do you think, oh, maybe she just like walked through the door and then they just noticed her? But seeing her kind of jump into time, you really gets the impression watching this that back in that episode or back earlier in the episode, she had just kind of appeared out of time in that moment.
Yeah, and when you watch the episode, like the first we're talking about this clip, like the first part of this clip, she seems confused and dazed, but she's not like, she knows something's not right. Her eyes are moving around, and you could see her eyebrows kind of, reach up and flare a little bit. So she's like, something's not right. But instead
Yeah,
of,
and we get a little bit of her theory that we'll talk about that in the next episode because she actually vocalizes what she thinks is happening to her.
yeah, it's really a it's like, to me, this part of the episode was like the first time you could actually sense fear from her, because she knows something's up and she's not willing to admit it because she's a deity and we're all peasants.
Yeah, not even peasants like
Yeah, bugs, cockroaches.
no, I mean that too, but in the next clip, the next episode, a line that I wrote down is she says, "You're plankton and envious of the sea that surrounds
Exactly.
you."
Yeah, that's like the biggest diss you could ever say to somebody. Like, you're jealous. Well, no, you're plankton, just envious of the sea. You small creature, you.
Yeah, and just it's something that she thinks of herself as something so infinitesimally larger than the people she's talking to. It's not even just like it's like the sense of a college student talking to a high school student. You get that
Right,
sense of
right.
superiority only multiplied by 1,000-fold.
Well, this entire time she's thinking to herself, like, okay, I'm this eternal goddess, everybody should worship me, and I'm in this human body and my powers are gone, but I'm gonna come back. And she's holding on to, what little faith of herself she has. And then she starts slowly but surely coming to grips that everything that she was in the past is no longer. And now, like, the physical ramifications of this are finally catching up with her,
Yeah, and she has this like love-hate relationship with Wesley because she sees him as like the object of her potential demise, but she's also her only thing that she can latch onto in this world.
And she's still holding on to Fred's memories. Like, I can feel Fred and she cared for you. And it's confusing to her, like, I one would assume that in the past she would have a vessel that was chosen for her, so this vessel would have little to no contact with the opposite sex or the
Well,
outside world.
I don't think she ever had a vessel. She just existed whenever she
Ah,
existed, and then she, was killed or sealed away, and then the only way that she could be brought back is like now is within a vessel. Like she didn't have enough power or enough. There wasn't enough of her left to bring her back on her own.
yeah.
And we also get back to the clip, we get just a little bit extra after the commercial break, where Spike says a good knee to the ribs does tend to catch up on you, doesn't it? And which I think is, you get that little completely, it's like confidence, but it's a completely different type of confidence that Spike has versus what Illyria has.
Yeah, Spike to me was just kind of like a wild card. Throughout both Buffy and Angel, he was just a wild card. But then, he grew as a person and gained his humanity just like Angel did. And he sees, Illyria as basically a new play toy, and then realizes that, oh shit, she's got some spunk to her, and he gets pissed at her, but he should be like pissed at himself. But he's an alpha male. He wants to believe he's an alpha male, and he's like, oh no, 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 little girl, you're not going to do this to me.
I think it's funny. I didn't talk, I did talk a little bit about Spike getting his soul back, and whenever I was talking about more about Buffy with the Buffy episodes. But I think it's funny, especially seeing like Spike and Angel here together on Angel, just how differently the two of them handled getting a soul. Because, Angelus had a soul forced upon him, and then he basically went underground, lived like a homeless derelict for what, like 50 years or however long it was. And Spike basically, he went crazy for 6 months, and then he was back to normal.
Well, Angelus had a soul. Well, they both had souls before, but yeah, they I guess I should say, Spike himself is just pure chaos. He was chaos before he became a vampire. And so 6 months to him is like, oh, okay, well, that's just like a week in Barbados.
Well, Spike, I mean, it's been a little while since I've watched the Spike flashbacks, but I thought he was like, pre-vampire, he was just like a wussy dandy.
Yeah, he was a noble. I think he was like a nobleman, but yeah, wussy dandy is
Yeah,
is a really good, analogy. Yeah.
it was like a mama's boy.
Father never loved him.
And so, yeah, like he was a very different character pre-vampire versus post-vampire. But then going from vampire to vampire with a soul, he was like 95% the same character. Whereas Angel versus Angelus are two very different characters.
Yeah, they're extremely well, I wouldn't want to say they're polar opposites, but they are opposites. And every now and then they kind of come back together and then they realize that they hate each other equally, and so they just go back to their different corners. And what's really funny
Yeah.
is with Angel, there's always a woman in the middle. And sometimes Fred was that one in the middle, and it's like, seriously.
Well, I did like how I don't think Angel never had any, like, Angel and Fred's relationship was always 100% platonic.
Yeah. Even though Fred didn't really want it to be platonic, Angel kind of saw her as like a little sister, and she
Yeah.
glamored after him because, let's face it, he's the tall, brooding, sexy type. And then you have Illyria as like, I despise everything you are, you abomination. And Angel's like, ouch, that hurts my feelings. Go
You're
on.
you're not even worth the effort to spit upon the ground that you walk on.
Exactly, yeah. And he's like, my feelings have been hurt. Please tell me more.
That's a lot to go on. And yeah, like you said, there's always a woman involved, whether it's Darla or Buffy. And then it goes on to, him and Cordelia, and then just for a little while in the last season, you have the werewolf Nina.
I got see now. You make me want to rewatch both Buffy and Angel, man.
I mean, they're definitely fun shows. I do still kind of want to do a full rewatch from the beginning because I've only set aside time. I watched season 6 of Buffy and season 5 of Angel, and I haven't, and just a handful of other episodes.
Just want to binge watch it all now.
Although I have been listening to a couple Buffy podcasts, going through them, and it's been interesting to revisit the episodes without actually watching them, but listen to other people talk about them, especially the one that I listened to, which, you know, I'll have someone on there for the last episode or the last loop of this episode, the Watcher Diaries. And that's a fun one because they remind me a lot of like the minute by minute, because they really take the episode and they break it down kind of beat by beat and really go into a lot of detail. Like they go, you know, an hour and a half, definitely over an hour talking about each episode, and they can go up to like 2 hours talking about one episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
They got a lot to say.
Yeah. So that should be fun. But you know, once again, this was a short clip, and I think we've gone far enough away from the episode that we've got a lot of ground to cover in the next episode. So once again, why don't you go ahead and take a moment and let everybody know where else they can find you online.
They can find me at Rabbit Hole Podcasts Facebook page, and we have, and as always, you know, rabbitholepodcast.com. I can be listened ranting and raving about the stupidest things on whatever with Jason Soto. I can be, you know, talked and listened to about sex, drugs, and rock and roll with you. And you know, me and about 4 other sociopaths talk about our top 5 movies. So, and you know, I spread myself out here and there on other shows. So, you know, good times for everybody.
Yeah. And as always, I am Bubbawheat, and you can find me on Twitter where I'm at Bubbawheat. You can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on anchor.fm, as well as anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We also have a Facebook page. It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that and discuss episodes as they come out. And we will be back next time. So until next time, grr.
Arr.
Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until
I am Illyria.
you were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until it
I am
cracks apart.
Illyria.
You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
I am Illyria.
You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.